Hey guys, Moniz here, and welcome to my review of Lenovo Yoga 730. This is the successor to last year's 720. Now when it comes to the design, not much has changed. It pretty much looks exactly the same. It's still a 2-in-1, so you can flip it around into different positions, tablet mode, tent mode, laptop mode, depending on what you're doing. And you can also buy an active stylus to write on the screen. In terms of durability, it feels like a well-built laptop. It just doesn't feel like a refined laptop. And what I mean by that is the edges of it. They're very sharp. They're not sharp in the sense that it's going to cut your hand if you're holding it. They just don't feel comfortable to hold. The port situation is still pretty good. You got two USB Type-C ports on the left-hand side, which are Thunderbolt 3, and on the right-hand side, you have a full-size USB Type-A port. I'm glad they at least kept one for now. I do wish there was a full-size SD card slot, or at least a micro SD card for that external storage, but at least they have the port situation correct. Inside, not much is upgradable. You can upgrade the M2 NVMe SSD, which gets great read and write speeds. The Wi-Fi card is upgradable, but the RAM, the CPU, and GPU are all soldered onto the motherboard. The display is 13 inches, but there's also a 15-inch model available, which has obviously more screen real estate. This one's Full HD, it supports touch, it has an active pen if you need that, and of course, there's higher res models available if you need more pixels per inch. Now, if you're a photographer or an artist who needs a color accurate screen, I think there are other Ultrabooks out there that do a better job. This one's okay. I did notice a little bit of a yellowish hue when I was looking at white images, so it's not the best display on the market. The bezels are a good size. They're slightly thick, but they're not overbearing. And I do like the fact that the webcam is on top. Now, one thing to mention, because this is a 2-in-1, there's a bit of screen wobble when you're typing on the keyboard. That's pretty standard for most 2-in-1s, but it's something that I should point out. Webcam is 720p, which is pretty typical for most Ultrabooks. I mean, it looks like this, decent coloring, good enough for streaming video, and of course, the audio sounds like this as well. The speakers are on the bottom of the laptop. There's two of them. They get pretty loud. They're not as loud as the Dell XPS 13, but loud enough. They're a bit tinny as well, which is typical for speakers underneath. I would have loved to have speakers on the top, but it's kind of hard to do that with laptops getting thinner. You can fine-tune them using JBL's equalization settings. There's also Dolby Atmos support if you want to connect headphones to it, but you're going to have to pay a subscription to that. And there's also far field microphones. So basically what that means is if you're across the room, you can yell commands to your laptop and it's going to hear you. And because of that, there's Alexa support. Now I couldn't test out Alexa on this laptop. It's not enabled yet, but it is coming up in an update in the near future. Okay, so let's talk about the keyboard. This is one area that I wasn't too impressed with. I didn't like the typing experience on it. I do like the U-shaped keys, which is typical of Lenovo. It's just the travel distance is very short and the keys themselves feel very shallow and mushy. I just wish there were a lot more like the Lenovo X1 Carbon ThinkPad. Like these keys are so comfortable to type on. One of my favorite keyboards on a laptop. Besides that, button placement's okay. Touchpad below is a very good size, lots of space to move your fingers around. It is using Windows Precision drivers, pretty accurate. I wouldn't say it's good as the Dell XPS 13, but it's pretty close. And there's also Windows Hello recognition. You don't have it on the cameras, but you do have it with a fingerprint scanner on the bottom side of the deck. So my review unit is the i5-8250U, but there is a model available that comes in an i7 format. Now I never felt like I had any problems doing day-to-day stuff, and that's including Google Docs, using Excel, having tons of tabs open, watching media, or even just browsing the web. In fact, you're not going to see that much of a speed difference compared to last year's model unless you do more intensive stuff that could utilize all 4 cores. So transcoding video, using Photoshop. Those are the things that utilize extra cores and you'll see about 30 to 40% speed increase. Now when it comes to gaming, you're not going to do much on it, especially when it comes to AAA titles. It's just not meant for that. And if you do want to do that, you can do it, but you got to hook up an external GPU. Heat management is also great on this laptop. No more than 41 to 42 degrees Celsius on the surface. I mean, that's pretty good compared to most Ultrabooks I've tested recently, which usually hit about 45 to 46. CPU temps itself utilize around 75 to 80 degrees at max load. There is some thermal throttling when the CPU temps spike too fast, but once the fans kick in, it stops throttling and everything seems to be okay. In terms of noise, it's a very quiet laptop when it's under idle, 33 decibels. However, if it does get under full load, it does get a little bit louder, especially compared to, let's say, the XPS 13. Battery life is kind of disappointing in this laptop. When I say disappointing, I don't mean in the sense that you're gonna have a terrible experience. I just mean it's disappointing compared to the category average. You see, most Ultrabooks using the latest 8th gen processor from Intel get about 9.5 to 10 hours of use. This one gets about 8 hours of of use before having to charge. The good news is you have two USB Type-C ports, both of them can be used to charge the laptop, and Lenovo has rapid charging technology incorporated that'll give you 2 hours of use in just 15 minutes. So here are my closing thoughts. Lenovo Yoga 730 does two things right. It has a good touchpad and it has great thermal output. The rest of it is pretty mediocre or decent. The display is decent enough, the keyboard is a little mushy, but it's fine. The battery life could be better. I mean, it's pretty low compared to the category average, and the design is a little rough around the fingers. I do wish it felt like a more refined product. And I don't think it's a bad laptop. I think if you're a student on a budget and you want something that's gonna last you for a very long time, you don't care if every single category is perfect, but good enough, then you're gonna find a lot of value in the Lenovo Yoga 730. If you're a creative professional or someone who has a little bit more money, I think there are better alternatives out there. Maybe the Dell XPS 13, or maybe even the X1 Carbon, which I think is a fantastic laptop. So that wraps up my review of the Lenovo Yoga 730. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.